Welcome to the Joy of Cruising podcast with your host, award-winning author Paul C. Thornton, a weekly conversation with the amazing cruisers featured in the Joy of Cruising books comprised of The Joy of Cruising, Cruising Interrupted, new release, The Joy of Cruising Again, as well as other fun, informative, global cruise personalities. It is the next best thing to cruising, hearing about cruising from the unique and diverse perspectives of Paul's amazing guests. If you hear about a cruise that interests you, book it at www.thejoyofcruising.net. It helps support the channel through our partnership with Where's Walters Travel. We really appreciate your feedback, so leave us a text. Paul can't reply, but he may read your text on air.
Hello, passionate cruisers. This is Paul, and I am delighted to welcome this week on the Joy of Cruising podcast, John Shallo, the founder and editor of Cruise Addicts, a premier online community for cruise travelers. John's love for cruising began after his first cruise in 1989. He later established Cruise Addicts in 1999 to share his passion for cruise travel with others, and it has become an award-winning destination for self-professed cruise addicts looking for the latest cruise industry news, forums, ship reviews, and travel tips. You can find him on the web and social media and sharing his latest cruise ship review video, travel tips, and port guides. He hopes to continue his experiences and inspiring others to enjoy cruise travel to its fullest. Welcome, John, to the Joy of Cruising podcast.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me.
So how you doing?
I'm doing great. Hello from Georgia.
Yeah, I have actually fond memories of Georgia from a long, long time ago. What part of Georgia are you in?
We're in West Georgia.
So name a couple of cities.
Like near Carrollton.
I spent almost 3 years in Columbus, Georgia.
Nice. It's a beautiful area.
I was in the military, and I actually loved it. So before we discuss, how's your weather there?
It's nice today.
We should probably have the same weather, and it's been really, really hot. But a week or so ago, we actually had to cut the air off because it was starting to, in the morning, it would be really chilly with the air on, and so it still gets nice in the afternoon, but in the morning, it might be like in the 60s.
Yeah, it's been
it's
been the same way here. We're waiting for a good cool off. I like the cool weather.
So before we discuss Cruise Addicts, tell our listeners about yourself in general. Where you're from, where you live, professional background, anything you are willing to share.
Well, my name is John Shallo. I started Cruise Addicts in 1999. It's at cruiseaddicts.com. And I currently live in Georgia. Previously, I lived in Florida for most of my life and was born in New York. And I worked in public safety for most of my life. But now we're working on cruising full time.
Where'd you live in Florida?
The Sarasota-Bradenton area.
Okay. Yeah. Before I moved here to North Carolina, I spent, I think it was 9 years in Florida. It's too hot for me.
It's really hot.
So talk about Cruise Addicts. What motivated you to create it?
Yeah, so this was back in 1996. I started working on computers, doing websites for my family. This was in the early days when it was hard to get a URL. You had to do a lot of things to even start a website. And I started a uniform shop for my mother. And then in 1999, I started Cruise Addicts because I had been doing 3 years of working on basically a retail store, online shopping. And this was going to be like something fun because I was researching a cruise for Royal Caribbean, actually. So I was basically looking at all the different websites, and reviews were really big then, and message boards. And I always enjoyed computers and, of course, had some experience making websites. So as a fun thing, I started a website, the Cruise Addicts website, actually as a subdirectory under my mother's site at the time. And then later on, we got our own domain name. And So it was fun. It was just something creative. Your 9 to 5 job can be kind of monotonous and not very creative. And of course, retail store is only so much fun. You can only post so many images of products, right? So it was just a fun transition to something more creative. And I had some friends, and we had access to different technology, and we created a message board on the Cruise Addicts site, and that became very popular in the cruising community at the time because it was very cutting edge for 1999, and so it had just blossomed from there. And it was very it was fun just to have something that you could come home to and you log into, and you'd see all these people talking about cruising, sharing their getting ready for their cruises and their trips and everything, and trip reports. And it just really spurred my creativity, and that just blossomed from there.
So you were talking about what those early days were like, and I used to love spending time on message boards of all kinds, not just cruising. In fact, in '99, I probably wasn't spending much time on cruising sites. I mean, I had been cruising, but I wasn't the fanatic I am today. So I was on all kinds of message boards. How has running a message board for, I call them forums. I guess that's the same, right?
Yeah, it's the same.
So how has that transformed over the years versus where we are today?
Well, at the time, that was kind of the thing. That was kind of like the first online community before it was even a keyword, a word, before social media had come about. So it was really a melting pot of everybody coming together and kind of making it what they wanted to be. Roll call started, group cruises started that way. People made relationships. Sometimes the forums, we actually had a chat room so people could chat real time in the evenings. And of course, we had a news front end so people could keep up with the latest news. So it was just a melting pot of information. Later on, I'd say even 10 years later, Facebook, Twitter, or X nowadays, Instagram, those things came about. So things have shifted a little bit more to more mainstream social media because there's such a massive audience. But of course, even now, Facebook has gone to creating groups. So people still yearn for those original message boards and forums that me and you both liked. And so we still our forums still exist. And I think people are starting to go back to those traditional message boards and forums because they really enjoy that interaction.
So in terms of, I don't know what the technical term is, but eyeballs, has it been a big change from early on, or is it steady, or?
Yeah, I think it's definitely, for us, it's dropped off. I think, in the big picture compared to what it was in the early days, even the first 10 years or so, there's been a drop off now. This is our 25th year. So we've gone through a lot of ups and downs, but the forums were very up for most of our history. And now they're just kind of steady for where they are. We hope they come back. We always try to keep up with technology and change things to serve our readers and guests to the community.
Now, do you have a presence on other platforms? A Cruise Addicts? Is there a Cruise Addicts group on Facebook or anything like that?
Yeah, there's a Cruise Addicts group on Facebook. We also have some niche groups for different cruise lines. We have one of the largest Viking cruises groups. We have a Carnival cruise group, a Royal Caribbean, Regent Seven Seas Cruises, Tauk. That I think I said Royal Caribbean as well. So we have these groups as well. We also have Instagram and X, all the different social media channels. We try to cover everything.
So on those various Facebook groups you mentioned, which I didn't know, but I'm now going to visit those sites, are they branded Cruise Addicts?
Sometimes they are. They might say Cruise Addicts in the title because some of the brands don't want you to just use their title, their brand name in the title alone. So, but they always say by Cruise Addicts. It'll say like in the header, it'll actually have to say by us.
So is that a lot of extra work having to administer your main message board, your what I call legacy message board, and then all of the groups. Do you administer all of that yourself?
It can be. We have moderators on our longtime moderators on our message boards on the website. We also have a moderator on our largest group, which is the Viking Cruises Facebook group. And also Facebook luckily has technology which really catches a lot of things. People can report things, and also things pop up, like get filtered out. They really made it easier to moderate and administer groups compared to what it was in those early days.
Let's go back to the beginning. When and on what ship was your first cruise?
My first cruise is 1989. It was my graduation of high school, and my parents gave me a cruise with my buddies on Chandra's Fantasy Cruises, and it was a 5-night cruise to the Western Caribbean, Mexico, and it started all of this.
I beat you by a year.
Oh,
Yeah, my first cruise was '88. So what were your initial impressions of cruising?
I loved it. I think it was a combination of a lot of different things. It's kind of like emerging. You're just about to step out of high school and become an adult per se, right? And just to be treated like a king. Those early cruises were amazing. You really were treated like a king, I think. You didn't have to ask for anything. People were just, the ships were much smaller and the service was really impeccable. And I think there still is, of course. I'm not diminishing anything today, but it was just a different experience. And I was so spoiled. I loved it. I thought it was just remarkable. And of course, wanted to do it again one day.
Now, you weren't even old enough to drink, right?
Yeah, but they let us because I was 18, so I was 18 at the time, so they did allow me, and of course we were allowed to go. We went to Mexico, and they allowed us to go there. So some of the group partaked quite a bit.
Oh, so you grew up real fast.
Yeah, but that was a different time. So nowadays, things are a lot stricter.
So did you get hooked on that first cruise, or did it kind of have to grow on you?
Yeah, I mean, I remember it was very something I really, really enjoyed at the time. Some time went by, but it just left it. I guess the best way to look at it is it just really left just a big impression on me, that it was a great way to travel, and of course, just to be treated, like I said, like a king. It just was incredible to you're a kid one day and the next day you're on this magical experience, where you're traveling overseas, so to speak. And it was just a great entry into the world of travel.
You said that was Chandra's Cruises. Now that's the forerunner to Celebrity.
Exactly. Yeah. That ship became the Meridian, I believe. And then later on, it actually, it was, I think that later on it became Celebrity Meridian, I believe.
We'll be right back.
The Joy of Cruising podcast guests receive a gift sponsored by GigSky of a 3 gigabyte cruise plus land data package valued at $60. Relying on ship Wi-Fi is slow, unsecure, and sometimes not available. And at foreign ports, travelers don't want to pay their carriers high fees. GigSky provides a solution that will save them a significant amount of money. To get your own data package usable on the ship or in ports, here is my link to GigSky. https://gigsky.pxf.io/NLOXOR. This can be found in the show notes below. For a 10% discount, use the code Joy of Cruising.
So how long was it before you got on a cruise again?
The next cruise was Grandeur of the Seas in 1996 with Royal Caribbean. And of course, that was a big step up. And I think that's when it was really, really kind of took me back where modern cruising was going, because it's such a big difference. This palatial ship of the Grandeur of the Seas was a ship of glass, the Vision class, just incredible. So that really made a bigger impression on me, and I think that's when I really got hooked.
So, what were some of the cruise lines that you tried in those early days? When I say early, really leading up to the pandemic.
Yeah, I tried. I did. Royal Caribbean was my main cruise line for quite a while, um, and then I tried Carnival. I did. I think I tried. I think before the pandemic, I did Norwegian. Also, I did Viking. I've done quite a bit leading up to the pandemic because that's a pretty big stretch of time. But I was able to try many different cruise lines. Holland America, some small cruises, small little things, and other times longer cruises. I did my first river cruise before the pandemic.
What was that?
That was the Viking River cruises. I did the Danube and also the Rhine River, and I remember thinking I didn't know if that was for me. I joked at the time I kind of enjoyed my Coca Locos on the pool deck, of a big mountain. I didn't know if this, because if you compare a modern cruise ship to a river cruise ship, the size is pretty significantly different. And, it's very communal. And I didn't know if that was for me, but I really, really loved it. And I think people should try that. I think it's a great way to explore Europe. You're in these amazing places that look like a fairy tale that are sometimes the only time we've seen stuff like that is maybe at Disney World, and here you are walking through streets, historic streets and places that just are incredible, and it's just so easy to reach these places through a river cruise on the Rhine or the Danube, and Viking does it really in a wonderful way.
Just got off my first river cruise. Clearly I'm going to do it again. Yeah, there's so much good that I can say about river cruise. I guess the only thing that those who have done nothing but what I call traditional cruises, the only thing that they've got to get used to, and this probably will affect some people, is there's no casino.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, it's like fantastic. There's no such thing as seasickness.
Yeah.
Going through the locks was just an incredible experience. And it's so old school. The technology is so old school, and yet it's so fascinating I got up on the deck when we were going through a lock, and I mean, that was just amazing. And I guess most people who are listening who have never done a river cruise, it's probably hard to picture that and why it was so fascinating. But that was just an amazing use of mechanics from way back.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I'm sure you're like me, some of the fascination of cruising to me, especially going back to 1988 and 89 for us and to today. And like I said, when I went to 96 and I saw that newer ship, it's like a modern marvel, and I love those shows where you see these just massive engineering marvels, so I'm kind of like a ship nerd too. And so, like you said, when you see the locks and you see all this technology and it's magnificent just to see it all and to experience it, when you're part of it all.
Then the pandemic happened. Generally don't like to hear about the pandemic, but I always like to ask guests, how did you spend the pandemic? I hear some pretty interesting stories, sometimes pretty poignant stories. Mine wasn't interesting or poignant. I climbed the walls. That's what I did. In the heat of Florida, working inside, couldn't go out. Well, you rarely could go outside. To me, it was like prison. But I've heard of some people who have run marathons for the first time, took up bicycling, and now I interviewed one guy. He does these bike trails that cross like 3 states. Uh, you know, Pandemic Garden. Did you do anything? Did you step outside yourself and do anything special?
Well, I was very fortunate. I was an essential worker at the time, so they essentially made me work a lot. so, so that was still.
That's what essential worker means. Essentially work a lot.
And of course, the challenge with the pandemic was interesting. It was kind of a two-sided thing, but with the website, I had people reach out to me. I had one colleague interview me, and he was interviewing different people in the cruise community at the time. We were doing live streams with the Viking Cruises Facebook group with Michael Consoli, who I collaborate with. And also, that was very productive because people were asking about their travel questions, and they were concerned about their bookings and everything like that. There was a lot of concern. And I also just kind of spent time digging deep, creating things, just making different videos and keeping up with all the different news. And so I kind of just kept busy, but nothing. My life didn't change too much because of my work life. Me and my wife were both essential. So we both kept working.
So when you say essential, you had to go in.
Yeah, me and my wife both went in to work.
Okay. And then the pandemic gradually came to an end. What was your first cruise back?
We booked one of the first cruises on Carnival Horizon. I actually booked Mardi Gras originally, and then it got delayed, and I basically had to rebook something for that same week that we took off, and I couldn't book Mardi Gras. So we booked Carnival Horizon, and I think it was a 6-night cruise to the Caribbean. And so we got right back to it.
Was that one of those where there was very low passenger count relative to crew?
Yeah, it was definitely pretty low at the time, and which was nice. I'm not going to complain. So that was definitely a unique experience to have a ship to yourself. We didn't have it completely to ourselves, but it was definitely lower passenger count.
Yeah, I get jealous when I interview people who cruise in those very early days and had that low passenger count. I think I came back maybe early 22, and I guess cruising had been going for about 6 months or so. And by the time I came back on Symphony of the Seas, and it was packed. So there were no more. There were no more advantages that you get with going on one of those early cruises out. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think they even required. We wore them, but I don't think they even required masks. Maybe they required masks of the staff of the crew, but not passengers.
Yeah, those early cruises, you had to have masks on quite a bit, or the crew did, and they gave you masks sometimes. I remember we did an MSC cruise in 2021 too, and they gave us an MSC mask. I remember. So yeah, things have changed.
Yep. So a lot of entrepreneurs or creators or influencers, whatever best describes you, a lot of folks hit the ground running. They went on cruise after cruise after cruise once cruising restarted. Was that the case for you, or did you kind of get back into it gradually?
We kind of did it gradually. Opportunities came about. We did in 2021 was pretty busy. We retired and moved to Georgia, and we went on Wonder of the Seas. Also went on Viking Octanus that year. And then later that year, in 2022, we did quite a bit too. So we've been pretty busy going on different things. It's been a lot of fun.
Now, you've mentioned Viking several times. Is that your favorite line?
It's one of my favorite. It's very unique. It's offering. I highly recommend it to people. I like all different cruise lines. I think, and it's one of the things I talk about a lot. And a lot of times I do live streams. Especially because I have these groups, I see people saying different things, And of course, we have, me and you both have a perspective that goes back quite a bit, to the 80s. I see people talk about, they get very tied into a certain cruise line, but I think like if you started with cruise line A, sometimes your taste and likes might change. But some of these cruisers will get so tied into that line, they think they have to stay with it. But I think the cruise lines are kind of like different resort hotels or restaurants, whatever you want to compare. There's different tastes, and I think it's good to try different things because as your tastes and likes evolve, I think you should compare and contrast those things. If you're locked into just one brand, that brand works on being consistently what it is. You can't change it. It might change a little bit, but I think that cruisers should try the different brands because I think their tastes do evolve. They might not know it, but it's just my perspective. I think that they do. And I think there's a line for everything. If I'm having a family cruise, I can't go on Viking, for example. And my family might have different tastes and wants compared to the line that I'm going on. So I probably won't go on Princess, but maybe I'll go on something like Royal Caribbean that's going to take care of the whole family. The whole family is it's a mass market line that everybody's going to really enjoy and have a good time. So I think that really you have to match up your likes and tastes, and that just like everybody's tastes, they evolve. So I think I just see people constantly on these groups talking about how they're upset about something, and I really just think they're they're overexposed to that single brand.
Yeah, I'm like you. I call myself a cruise line agnostic. I try a lot of different things. I'm so glad I now have added a river cruise to that. So you gotta to me. Well, I know some people really enjoy or really take pride in where they are in terms of the loyalty tiers. I see people who start every sentence with "I'm diamond" or "I'm this," "I'm that." And that's nice. Sometimes I envy, being in a situation where I can get free drinks and stuff like that on a cruise line. But I really like just trying different things. Now, having said that, there's some popular lines that I haven't tried yet. How do you like? What are your thoughts on Holland America?
Yeah, Holland America is really, really nice. It's actually quite similar has a similar vibe to it has a little bit of Viking vibe to it, where the ships are very beautifully decorated. It's very relaxing. The clientele is very soothing to walk around there on their ships, and it's very premium as well. A lot of little things they do. So I highly recommend that. I think you'd really enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm going on my first How cruise in January. A very special cruise, so I probably would have enjoyed it regardless of what cruise line it's on. But I'm glad it's on How to give me a chance to experience How. The reason I say it would work on just about any line is it's a theme cruise. It's a Soul Train cruise.
Oh,
Have you
wonderful.
ever been on a Yeah, have you ever been on a theme cruise?
Yeah, I did a country cruise. Um, yeah, it was called Country Cruising Cruise, and it was incredible. So they turned the ship into like a big concert, and
Yeah.
it was incredible. They had stages all over the place, and it was music, and the musicians were obviously country, but they were just incredible musicians. So they played all different types of music, and it was just incredible. 24/7. It was just really, really great, and big names too. I mean, I could drop names, but it was top notch.
Yeah, I kind of wonder, is it by the same company? Because the company I'm going on, they do a whole series of music themed cruises. So they do a country western cruise. They do like a rock and roll cruise. They do one that's kind of geared towards you know old hippies. They do one even called it's aimed at like the 50s and 60s, and it's sold out every year. Obviously, a lot of the bands, you're not going to have that many of the originals, but they still get, and for each cruise, whether it's country or Soul Train or disco, I mean, they get top-notch names. Now, they might not be top-notch, in the music business today, but they have, some real legacy brands,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. What's really incredible too is they literally take over the whole ship. So you're on a Holland
Yep.
America ship, but like everything down sometimes to even the logo on the napkins are like Soul Train, and they really take over. It's incredible. And the access, you'll be in the elevator and the band will be walking out and you'll see your favorite stars and they're just very accessible and it's just really cool.
I went on the right before the end of the book, or the last chapter, I think, in the book. I had gone on the smooth jazz cruise. I've got a couple of photos in the book of me. One time my wife and we ran into Michael McDonald at the elevator, and so we ended up taking pictures with him. I hope he wasn't in a hurry to get somewhere because he missed his elevator. And then we ran
Wow.
into there's another guy, Peter White, who is just like a supreme smooth jazz guitar player. And I ran into him in the buffet, and so I took a picture with him. That I tell cruisers all the time, put a
Yeah.
theme cruise on your bucket list. There's nothing like it. First of all, before anything ever happens, before the very first time you step on the ship, you already have a lot in common with all of your cruise mates because, if it's like a country cruise, well, everybody there is into country music, so there's a bond, kind of a special bond before the first activity.
Yeah, and everybody is excited. They know who Michael McDonald is. They enjoy that music to a high level.
Yep.
The enthusiasm is incredible, right?
Yep. So you said Viking is one of your favorite lines. What's another favorite line?
Well, I think I like them all. Royal Caribbean's, I'm diamond with Royal Caribbean. I drop.
There you go.
But yeah, I see people say that all the time too about their levels. But like I said, obviously, I think people should try things. I would hate for anybody to not take a river cruise or not try those different experiences on Holland America or Viking or Royal Caribbean. I mean, I would hope they try different things, and not pass up those experiences just for reaching a next level. But I think people will, unfortunately. But I guess that's their choice.
Let's talk about Cruise Addicts. What are you up to? Oh, you know what I wanted to ask you? So we talked about your first cruises after the pandemic, and we talked about theme cruises. What's your latest cruises? Say something about your most recent cruises.
Yeah, so we just got back not long ago from Atlas Ocean Voyages. We were on the World Traveler.
Now, Atlas Ocean Voyages. I'm not familiar with that line.
Yeah, it's a new yacht cruise. So
Okay.
it only holds 196 passengers, and so it's very intimate, um, really, really nice. So I think this line, and it's also an expedition ship as well. So they do cruises in Antarctic and the Arctic regions, and then they do these Epicurean expeditions in the Mediterranean during the summer. So they have celebrity chefs come on board and foodies and talk about different things, and go to these amazing places that big ships can't. So this particular one was a 12-night cruise in the Isles of the Mediterranean and went to these far off places that really only we would pull up and there'd be just these mega yachts that you could never get a big ship there. So we kind of felt like we were these billionaires, yacht clubs in Sicily, and it was just incredible. Really, really enjoyed it. The ship itself that this was the smallest. It's a yacht, so it's only this was just shy of 10,000 tons, so only 9,000 tons. So obviously the smallest vessel I'd been on, for a cruise. And I loved it. If you didn't know any better, you're sitting by the pool, you could easily feel like you were on a larger ship. So I never felt we were on a small vessel. Uh, the design was incredible, and we really, really loved it. It's very all inclusive. They have mini bars included, 24-hour room service, specialty restaurant on board is included. And the service was really incredible. And so I highly recommend Atlas Ocean Voyages. I think your listeners should look into it. Of course, look for the content that we're going to be sharing on Cruise Addicts. We have some up there, but we've got more to come.
Good, good. What's another recent favorite?
Let's see.
Have you been on any of some really highly anticipated ships premiered this year? Let's see, Princess Sun, and there was a new carnival. Was, I guess, the Jubilee.
Jubilee. I haven't been on those.
An Icon. Have you been on any of those?
Haven't been on any of those. Last year I did Holland America Eurodam, and I did Norwegian Spirit, and year before that we did Carnival Celebration.
I've been on that class of Carnival. I've been on Mardi Gras, but I haven't gotten to Celebration or Jubilee yet. Norwegian Spirit, one of my best cruises of all time, was on Norwegian Spirit. It had just a dream itinerary from Hawaii to Alaska.
Yeah, and I think it's still kind of doing that thing. I think it might have went to Asia now. I know they've kind of adjusting the itineraries, but really love that ship. And I think being on the Eurodam and also the Spirit, it kind of brought me back to those early days, being on a 70 to 90,000 ton ship. That I really, really enjoyed that. I think there's a lot and if you're not looking for every bell and whistle, a lot of people go on these bigger ships because they have so much amenities, and I'm a big proponent of that. I think it's wonderful there's a reason why those big ships have those, and it's really, really great. But if you're going on maybe like a couples cruise and you might not need your extended family to have a full water park or different things, I think those like Carnival Spirit or not Carnival Spirit, Norwegian Spirit is great, and even Holland America Eurodam, where it's just really like an authentic, traditional cruising experience where it's just not simple, but just much more traditional that I kind of fell in love with in the early days of cruising.
Yeah, a lot of people are reluctant to go on those older, smaller ships because they fear they will miss out on some amenities. But with the Spirit, which is by far the oldest NCL ship, it had like $150 million refurbishment right during the shutdown, and so everywhere you stepped, it was like a brand new ship. Now you're right in that it didn't have all of the water slides and all that, but it used to have that stuff, and they pulled that out. And while they don't call themselves adults only, there's really nothing for kids to do. There's no kids club. So on our cruise from Hawaii to Alaska, there were 5 kids on the whole ship. It was like a new ship. Now there were some things, they couldn't change. So the cabins were small, the bathrooms were small. I thought the buffet was way too small, but those are my complaints. Other than that, it was great. I saw some great shows. Everything about it was memorable.
Yeah, we went on it right after it had been redone as well, and it was just incredible. I thought it was great. Some of the best shows at sea.
Now, what was your itinerary?
It was Alaska.
Okay. So did you see? Since it sounds like you went on it, this is post lockdown, post refurbishment. Was the headline or one of the headliners the magician couple? I can't remember the name, but they were. I've seen magicians in Vegas, and they were better than anything I've ever seen. I mean, they were unbelievable. And in fact, they had their own show, but then at the end, There's what's it called? NCO has like I can't remember what it's called, but it was like a show, a huge show, a huge gala show, and they were in that as well.
That sounds familiar. So I think I may have seen them as well. Yeah, it exceeded our expectations, and the theater itself was beautiful. Do you
Mm-hmm.
remember how beautiful it is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really incredible. I thought it was just stunning.
Yep. Yep. So, what are you up to these days at Cruise Addicts?
Well, we're just catching up on our content and sharing all this. It seems like the news for cruising is just at an all-time high, with constant new ships being coming out, and breaking news. There's yesterday there was Norwegian Luna was announced, so much news coming, and keeping up with the content when we do travel, sharing videos, of course, doing live streams regularly with our partners and different groups that we're Facebook groups that we have. So just keeping us busy.
Have you done a Cruise Addicts group cruise, or do you have any future plans? Are you considering that?
We in our early days when our message boards were at its peak, a lot of our members would organize group cruise. We had really large ones. Actually, when I was married in 2005, we had one of our largest on Mare of the Seas. So yeah, we've done them before. We haven't done them in a long time. I've considered doing some through the Facebook groups. Our one Facebook group has over 46,000 members.
Wow.
So yeah, we're considering doing that through our Viking group. But it's something that's gradual. I think sometimes you can have larger groups of people, but it's a different. It's more intimate when people become friends, if they actually want to travel with each other. So it's something we're working on.
How can listeners follow Cruise Addicts and John Shallo on social media and the internet?
Yeah, so we've got YouTube. We've got a YouTube channel, Cruise Addicts YouTube channel. We also have an Instagram channel, Threads, X, also Facebook, Cruise Addicts Facebook page, and we also have the Cruise Addicts group. And of course, we have all those niche groups we have that you can probably see under our Facebook page. They'll show our groups, Viking Cruises, Royal Caribbean, Regent Seven Seas, Talc, and Royal Caribbean and Carnival. I think I said this, but yeah. So we got quite a bit of Facebook groups and social media channels that we keep up with. I know Instagram, we're sharing reels quite a bit lately. So it's always something now with the ever-changing social media landscape.
Now, John, you're not spread too thin, are you? You got a lot of help.
we work the best we can.
What do you do in your me time when you're not cruising or running Cruise Addicts?
Well, we moved to this area in 2021, so it's still somewhat new to us. So we try to explore the areas. It's amazing. We're right side out of Atlanta, so sometimes we go into the city and explore some culinary treasures, and some new restaurants. We enjoy that. We're enjoying the different parks in the area. We hope to see some wonderful waterfalls and different natural things. We first moved here, we went to Stone Mountain. I don't know if you've been there. That's pretty incredible. So we really enjoyed that. We're trying to get more outdoors. I think sometimes it's easy to kind of get caught up in our lives and get locked in our houses, kind of too much because our screen time and everything. So I'm hoping to do more of those types of things.
Now, being in Atlanta or near Atlanta, when you cruise out of Florida, do you drive down or fly down?
I think it's easier to fly down. The drive, it depends what we're doing, but lately we've flown. It's usually easier, especially if you're going to drive to Miami. It's pretty good. It's pretty good drive. It's probably more like almost a 12-hour drive, probably. So yeah, it gets pretty long. Sometimes just more convenient to fly.
Yeah. That's the only thing I miss about living in Florida was, I could be down to the port from. I lived in Fort Myers, so I could be down to either Fort Lauderdale or Miami, in 2 to 3 hours, depending on. I could be at Tampa in two hours. since I've been here in North Carolina, we've kind of had a mix. So we've flown down to Florida, but then I have my best friend lives in North Florida. So sometimes we'll drive to his house, to their house, and hang out, and then the next day drive to the port. So that makes it bearable. I wouldn't drive straight through if he didn't live, in North Florida. I would never drive. But so we kind of alternate between flying and driving. But I thought being in Atlanta, you're closer to the port than I. I guess I'm north of you, right? Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yep. So let's talk about the future. What do you have booked? Or do you have anything booked?
Yeah, we're going in on a Viking river cruise again and doing the Paris and Normandy excursion or itinerary. It's on the Seine River, and so we're really looking forward to that. It's going to be something new. The Viking ships are purpose built just for the Seine River, and so you're literally docked in the shadow of the Eiffel Tower. So we're really looking forward to that and just seeing something totally new. And it's during the time when the Christmas markets are going on. So we've loved Christmas market cruises. I don't know, we haven't talked about that yet, but that's something I highly recommend to your listeners, especially on the Danube and the Rhine. The Rhine, of course, is incredible. You literally just walk off and you're in this Christmas wonderland in the shadow of a cathedral that's hundreds of years old. Just really, really highly recommend that. And the bonus for going during the Christmas markets time is it's an off season, so you get to experience these wonderful places without the big crowds of the summer. And of course, if you're not upset with a little cooler weather, of course it's appropriate for the season. It's cold and it's wintry, and you're Christmas time, so I think it's perfect. But if you're not shy of going during the cooler months, I would highly recommend a Christmas markets cruise.
And
Really,
when is that cruise that you're talking about? The Viking
it's
cruise?
a yeah, it's in November, late November.
Hmm. And you say it stops in Paris.
It docks in Paris, right on the Seine River. I know there was mentioned that the Olympics they were swimming in the Seine River there,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so it cruises along that, and this river vessel is purpose built just for that river. So it's their Viking longship is just made for that river, and so it goes up and down the river and it visits different places in Paris and Normandy, and really really incredible. So we're looking forward to that.
Have you been to Paris?
No, never been there.
Well, the river cruise that I mentioned that I just got off, so it was on the Rhone river, and then it had it was 7 days on the Rhone, and then it had a 3-day excursion in Paris. So so that was great. I heard you mention the Eiffel Tower, and I would say for me the highlight of Paris was our Eiffel Tower excursion. We went all the way to the top. It was unbelievable. The story of how it was built, the story behind it, it was unbelievable. So yeah, that's going to be a real, that'll be a real treat for you.
Wow. Cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. What else do you have booked?
That's all we have booked so far.
Hmm. Well, you've been to a lot of places. What's on your cruise and travel bucket list?
We have not been to Asia, so I'd like to explore parts of Asia. I'd like to go to Vietnam, Singapore, China, Hong Kong. Um, still haven't been to Australia or Malaysia. That part of the world would be really fascinating to explore.
Yeah, both those parts of the world are on my bucket list as well. Well, John, before we let you go, a couple of light cruise questions, maybe even fun cruise questions, and then perhaps a fun oddball question. I call it oddball because it doesn't necessarily relate to cruising. So the first one's easy. Just it helps me, and I have gotten great ideas as a result of responses to this question. So, what are your favorite cruise drinks and cruise food?
So my drinks, I think if I'm on like elegant night, I'm probably going to have a Malibu and Coke. And then if I'm on a Carnival cruise, I'm going to have a kiss on the lips. And if I'm on a Royal Caribbean cruise, I'm going to ask for a Coco Loco.
There you go.
And food wise, that's really hard. Obviously, I really enjoy food. I think most cruisers do. Some of the best food I've had has actually been at the specialty restaurants that happen to be Italian. So I highly recommend it, Italian food on cruises. And then, of course, don't pass up the steak houses as well. Some of the really good steak houses on board, just incredible ribeyes and just those good cuts of meat. Highly recommend that. So I can't pass that up. And to finish out, I think those I can't pass also those teppanyaki restaurants as well. They've never disappointed. Some of the best have been on Regent Cruise Line.
Always good, always good. Do you have any traditions in terms of food? It actually doesn't have to be food, just traditions about anything that you only do on a cruise ship.
Okay. This isn't necessarily a tradition, but I think it's just something that stuck with me. I think I'll share with your audience. I've said it before, is I think I was told when I first got into cruising, going back to those days when I started my message boards and really met the cruising community out there and fellow cruisers on a large scale. Someone shared this with me. They said, kiss the ship good morning and kiss the ship good night. They said, and there's a whole thing it's written out. But the point to this is get up early, go outside, watch the sunrise. And I try to do this and walk around and watch the sun come up over the horizon, look at nature. You'll also find that the ship is not very populated. People are still sleeping in. But if you get up in those early hours and watch that sun come over the horizon and take in that salty air and enjoy the start of the day, maybe get a cup of coffee. You can always go back to bed and sleep in if you're up late and get up later on, maybe for a later breakfast with your spouse or whatnot. But I try to do that. And then also kiss the ship goodnight, right? So walk around if there's a moon out, feel the wind in your hair, if you have hair, right? But just enjoy it, and just get outside. I think the true show, and one of the things that with these big ships sometimes people are not tapping into, is just the show that Mother Nature's giving while you're on a cruise. The waves crashing against the side, the wildlife, just everything out there. Try to get out, try to be in touch with the ship and enjoy those little things that Mother Nature is showing you every day.
Well, I enjoy the kiss the ship good night part. I do that, but the kiss the ship good morning, I'm never in a position to do that, especially with the drink package. So next question is, what's your most memorable or even funniest or even most embarrassing cruise or port experience?
We recently went to Icy Strait Point, Alaska, which is just an incredible native-owned cruise port, which is just very authentic.
Yep,
and
been there.
They have, yeah. So you might know about the zip rider ride they have there, right? So it takes you to this top of this massive mountain, right? And the ride up there is get your attention. I'm not a big fan of heights, apparently. So we're riding up there, and just the ride up is getting my attention. And then they're telling me that they're going to strap me in and send me back down this thing. So I was a little concerned, and I made a video. You can actually see it on our social media channel if you want to see it. So they take you to the top, they strap you in, and it's kind of cool because I've never been a fan of zip line. This was my first zip line ride, by the way. They call it the zip rider, but it's basically a zip line. But what's unique about it is you sit like you're in a swing, like a kid's swing, where you're sitting in a seated position, right? So it's very much more comfortable than kind of doing like a Superman, which I've seen, which I don't think I'd be a fan of that. So you're sitting there, and they count to three and you ride down, and it is so exhilarating and so fun. I highly recommend it. It was smooth and enjoyable, and you're like a kid, on the roller coaster for the first time. You want to go again and again. So I highly recommend that. I now, granted, my nerves were up, and I was very nervous, but I enjoyed every minute of it. So I recommend your listeners go and check that out. I always thought those things might be dangerous or clunky or knock you around, but it was really, really smooth. And I've seen similar types of setups. I think Royal Caribbean has one in Labadee. I kind of chicken out not doing that, but now I see that it's a similar system, so I would do it again there. And I like that sitting position, so I would choose that compared to just that Superman look. But really, really cool. And then other times we went to, my wife was pregnant. We went to Aruba, and there was this big rock. And I remember she was walking up, and I think she sat down, or I was holding on to her every time. So that kind of got my attention in Aruba. But and lastly, I know, just to be a little sentimental, we did horseback riding, and this was it was a Mexican Riviera cruise, and we were in this little village in Mexico on the ocean. No one was there. I can't even really tell you where it was, but we just kind of came out of the woods and we're on this beautiful beach. And it was stunning. And it just was little moments where you just kind of pinch yourself saying, how blessed you are to take all this in and enjoy it, because it was like paradise. Watching the waves, you're on a horseback, watching the waves rolling in. It's just incredible. So yeah, just very, very blessed to have all these experiences.
Great. The oddball question. So I know some of your following, listening. So welcome to the many Cruise Addicts fans. We certainly hope you have enjoyed listening to the Joy Cruising Podcast, and we'll come back to listen to additional episodes and even join our Facebook group. John, share one thing that my listeners and your friends and fans don't know about John.
Well, I have a dog problem. So not only do I have a cruise problem, obviously I'm a cruise addict, but I have a dog problem. We have 4 dogs, which are like our children. So we really, really love them. And so yeah, I don't know if I've ever shared that, or my love of dogs. And of course, my wife is a dog addict as well as a cruise addict. So there are 4 children as well. So
I guess you have a routine when you go away for taking care of your dogs? Put them in a puppy hotel?
Usually my mother-in-law helps us out. No, we did that once, and our dog wouldn't talk to us for a week. So. I'm not kidding either. So luckily we're blessed that usually family watch the dogs, because it is a big commitment. I haven't figured out yet to have anybody come house sit or anything locally yet. So we've been very blessed with that.
Well, John, thank you so much for coming on the Joy of Cruising Podcast, and all the best, continued all the best with Cruise Addicts. And as I like to say, we will see you on the ocean.
Thank you, Paul. You too.
The Joy of Cruising and Cruising Interrupted, each $16.99 plus shipping, and new release, The Joy of Cruising Again for $18.99, can be ordered at the link on thejoyofcruisingpodcast.com. For each of the 3 books, use the discount code Joy of Cruising Podcast and get $4 off. The Joy of Cruising books are also available at Amazon. Order the ebook at Amazon or your favorite online retailer. Stay in touch by joining the Joy of Cruising Podcast Facebook group or following the Joy of Cruising Podcast on Instagram. We're constantly adding new shows. Please leave a review and tell a friend about us. We hope you enjoyed this brief escape to the ocean. See you next week.